You good? Okay. I'm going to call this business meeting to order of the Hamilton City School District. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. I need an approval for the Board of, the agenda. Oh, I can't talk today. Thank you, thank you. Any discussion? Mr. Frazier?
Mrs. Davidson?
Yes.
Mrs. Baker?
Yes.
Dr. Kopus?
Yes.
Mr. Sprague?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda, I'm sure everybody's had a chance to review the minutes, so I need an approval of the minutes from
So
our
moved.
last meeting. Thank you, Mr. Davidson. Need a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Kopus. Any discussion? Mr. Frazier?
Mr. Davidson?
Yes.
Dr. Kopus?
Yes.
Mr. Sprague?
Yes.
Mrs. Baker?
Yes. Okay, I don't see anyone here from City Council. Okay, we're going to skip public participation for a moment and the superintendent's comments. So I guess we need to go down to the board policy that I believe we discussed last week in regard to the purchasing and bidding, Mr. Frazier. I need a motion for that?
So moved.
Thank you. Thank you. Any discussion? Mr. Frazier?
Dr. Kopus?
Yes.
Mr. Sprague?
Yes.
Mrs. Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Davidson?
Yes.
Okay. Next on the agenda is the TIF CRA that we discussed. I need a motion to approve that.
I would move that we approve.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Mr. Frazier?
Mr. Sprague?
Yes.
Mrs. Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Davidson?
Yes.
Dr. Kopus?
Yes.
Okay, next is the human resources agenda. I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Oh. Any discussion?
I just have a few comments.
Yes.
As I went through this agenda, it is both amazing and wonderful that we have so many things going on. I was going to say these teacher volunteering for these after-school activities. I mean, I know they're getting compensated, but still, they're volunteering to spend their time after school. That's truly, truly amazing.
Yep.
And then just a comment about like the Prestige Show Choir and their trip to Fort Lauderdale in the Bahamas. That's all parent funded.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable support for those programs. Just truly amazing. I think that's great that those things are going on.
Yeah. Agree.
And there's a lot of programs after school that teachers have that they're not being compensated for
Yeah.
too. And you'd be amazed at our buildings, what they're doing.
We have dedicated teachers, that's for sure.
We sure do.
Okay. Any other discussion? Mr. Frazier?
Mr. Sprague?
Yes.
Mrs. Baker?
Yes.
Dr. Kopus?
Yes.
Mr. Davidson?
Abstain.
Okay. Next, we have the consent agenda. I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Discussion? Any discussion? Frazier?
Mrs. Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Davidson?
Yes.
Dr. Kopus?
Yes.
Mr. Sprague?
Yes.
And now you're up, Jeremy.
But real quick, and I should have brought it up on the
That's okay.
consent agenda. I noticed with, that we're buying some new computers for the, what is it, the fifth and sixth graders or? Chromebooks.
That's correct.
That is awesome. I mean, it goes to what we're talking about, our district is, cutting edge on technology. And I just wanted to point that out, and I meant to do that earlier.
Thank you, Mr. Davidson.
Thank you. Mr. Frazier?
Okay, finance agenda. It's actually a relatively light finance agenda. We have the normal reports that you're used to seeing, cash position report, as well as the cash reconciliation. We are working on cash flow analysis, and you will see that report in upcoming meetings. We have for approval the FY25 final appropriations. We passed temporary appropriations back in June. Per ORC, we have to final approve those appropriations by September 30. So those are up for your approval as well. We have two confirming purchase orders, both from Butler County ESC. There was just some billing discrepancies that we went back and forth, and now that those are ready to pay, it'll require your approval. And then we also have some donations totaling $809,000, or sorry, $809. My
I was gonna say, wow.
The largest one of those coming from the French Coffee House for the athletic department of $559. Those are my items.
Thank you. I need a motion to accept the treasurer's.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Mr. Frazier?
Real quick, Jeremy, I appreciate your hard work on
I was
these,
just gonna say, yeah.
these TIFs. and-
Oh, yeah.
And especially, the no-brainer we did tonight where substantial dollars are coming in on something we weren't going to receive anything on.
Absolutely.
So I
Absolutely.
appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Yep. Any other discussion?
I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Mr. Frazier?
Mr. Davidson,
Yes.
Dr. Kopus,
Yes.
Mr. Sprague,
Yes.
Mrs. Baker.
Yes. We need to move back up to the public participation and the superintendent's comments. I'm not sure we're still, you want to go into a recess?
Yeah.
We're going
Again?
into a 5-minute recess?
Yeah, let's do a 5-minute recess. Okay. I do need a motion. I need a motion to,
I'd make a motion to amend our agenda
yeah.
to move public participation and superintendent comments to the end of the agenda after the finance.
Thank you. I need a second on that. Oh, sorry. Any discussion? Mr. Frazier?
Dr. Kopus?
Yes.
Mr. Sprague?
Yes.
Mrs. Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Davidson?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so public participation, I believe we do not have anyone here for public participation. So, Mr. Holbrook, your comments.
Thank you, President Baker. I've got a number of different things that I want to update the board on this evening. The first, I want to talk a little bit about the transition plan that we've put in place starting in July. And I think this is important for everyone to understand, is the fact that we are in a unique opportunity to be able to transition a CEO of a major entity or organization, and to do that with not encumbering any taxpayer dollars. I think that's really important and very unique. And almost every meeting that I've gone to, people have commented about what a wonderful plan that is from a transitional piece. You mentioned a little earlier about, I got put into this job without much transition. And you know, it was very clear to me at an early point that, wow, these are some of the things I wish I would have known at the time, and I didn't. But I just want to say that Mrs. Blevins and I work well together. We put together a transitional plan that is currently being implemented, and it involves 2 phases. The first phase of that plan we called the introduction and exposure phase. And what I have been doing is introducing Mrs. Blevins to key individuals throughout the city of Hamilton, from the city manager, involvement in Rotary, involvement in Lindenwold Kiwanis, working with 17 Strong, participating in Leadership Hamilton, you know, and those are things that in her prior role she just didn't have access to. That wasn't part of the position. The other piece of that was, working towards her being the face of the district from a communication standpoint. So I know that you've received a lot of texts and emails from Mrs. Blevins. Don't think for a moment that we aren't talking about those before those are sent, and I'm not on the phone with her guiding her through some of those things, and we're working through that together. And it's really encouraging to me to work with someone that not only has the energy, is really smart, and is going to do a great job in that. But as we transition, I don't want anyone to think for a moment that I'm not right there with her, hand in hand, working through those things. Starting in January, we have something we call the implementation phase. And the reason that we start that in January, you're going to have an organizational meeting. We're going to have a board president. You're going to go through all that. You do that once a year. I'm not going to have another opportunity to have her live through that. And so she's going to take more of a working role with the board, with the development of the agenda, working with whomever the board president is on all of those various things. And this is all detailed in a document that if you want shared with you, I'd be more than happy to share that with you. She's also working directly with Mr. Wright and Mr. Frazier. As was mentioned earlier, we meet every single Monday morning for an hour or two, and we're looking at enrollment. We're putting together, what does enrollment mean to our projections within the district? What does that mean with staffing? What does that look like in the future? One of the things that I brought up a couple weeks ago, and it was earlier this week, brought up even in a different form, I think there's going to be a significant increase on the employer portion of STRS over the next 4 to 5 years. That's going to impact some things. They're looking at a 4% increase, and I don't know how it's going to be phased in, but that's that's probably a 4% increase is probably close to about a $2 million a year expenditure for this district, and I'm using rough numbers there. Well, how does that impact the projections moving forward? How does that impact your staffing? What does enrollment projections look like over the next 3 to 5 years? Because all of that strategically has to be looked at. You know, and the other issue that we're being challenged with, and in every building I have heard this, the needs of students have increased exponentially. And so we know that. How do we service them? And what resources do we need in order to service them? And what does that look like organizationally and from a structure standpoint? All of that is strategic, and it's extremely important to have an understanding with that. And I do think I bring something to the table, having done this 36 years, that can be helpful. I think Andrea is also going to bring in her own ideas, which are new and fresh and different. And it doesn't mean one's right and one's wrong, but I think that's a good thing. And so I just want to make sure that everyone understands moving forward what that looks like and what we have been doing with that. And a lot of that's been behind the scenes. A lot of that is a lot of time invested in getting the new city manager here. And I'm fortunate enough to have a good relationship with him because he used to be the chief of police. You know, and so bringing him in here and having him introduced to Ms. Blevins is really important, because those relationships are going to be really important in a city school district, and especially in Hamilton, because we can be huge drivers in the economic progress that's happening in this city. We can be a strong partner, and you can see that by even some of the things that have been going on in the last 4 or 5 years. If it wasn't for Hamilton City Schools, if it wasn't for Hamilton City Schools and the support of the board, then some of those things may not have occurred. And I think moving forward, as you look at the landscape in the next 3 to 5 years, it's going to be really important for the city and the school district to have a very, very good relationship, because Hamilton City Schools will thrive as much as the city does, and the city's going to thrive as much as Hamilton City Schools does. I mean, there's no escaping that relationship, so it's important that we have that. And I think that we're off to a really good start in developing those things. The next thing I want to update everybody on, and I really hope that parents are listening, is the whole epidemic right now in social media. The misuse of social media has become a national crisis. Students creating or sharing information that is threatening to our schools is something the district takes very seriously. The messages often induce panic, drain resources from our law enforcement and school administration, and not to mention the damage it does to staff and student psyche in days and weeks following the incident. We need the assistance of all of our parents and guardians to fight this battle, to be aware of what your children are doing on social media, and engage in a conversation about what is and what isn't appropriate when using social media, including sharing a post or a message that may not have even been created by you, but could be something that induces panic or creates a safety concern. Even sharing that can be a huge issue. If something's posted or shared with your student that is not appropriate, please contact school, contact HPD, contact someone in authority so we can address it. Don't reshare it and pass it along, because that's what happens, and that's what induces the panic. We're going to continue with a zero tolerance stance on this issue, and we're going to work collaboratively with our police department and prosecute criminally, if appropriate, and administer school consequences for this behavior, because it is impacting our students every day, and we need help from everybody to do this. I will say this: none of the threats that we've gotten thus far have come during the school day. It's nothing that we could have prevented within the confines of our school day. They're happening after hours, either in the evenings or on weekends, sometimes both. And with that, that's why we need that assistance. And I think that obviously it's a problem nationwide. It's a problem in Southwest Ohio. I think that there was an incident today at a school in Cincinnati. And we've got to have this stop. And I think our parents want this to stop. I know our students want this to stop. And so it would be negligent of me not to mention that tonight. The last thing I do want to say is that high school, yes, you go to classes in algebra and English, and all of those are extremely important. High school is also about events. It's also about times to have fun with friends. And this weekend, we do have our homecoming festivities going on. We have our homecoming football game tomorrow night, and we have our homecoming dance on Saturday evening. And what I'm going to encourage all of our students, have fun, make good decisions, be safe, and enjoy the experience. Those are my comments for this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Holbrook. Appreciate that. You're very, very timely, so thank you. Okay,
Can I make a quick comment?
sure.
Because
absolutely.
I've been around for a while and was here when you first came on board. And during those first couple of years, it was crazy. I think there was a lot of angst in the district among teachers and among administrators. What's going to happen next? How is this going to impact me? Families were concerned. We had a superintendent who left under, well, he left. Let's just say it that way. He left. And we had a short-term interim superintendent, and then the ball was thrown in your court sort of earlier than you expected it to happen. I want to say at least 4 months earlier than it happened. Having this ability to help with the transition, and you know, a lot of those districts, I know there's huge egos involved, and you've laid down your ego to help Andrea as she moves into this position. I think you need to be commended on this, Mike, because we've talked numerous times over the years what's going to be next for the district, and you've put the district first in making sure that we're in good shape and going on. And this is just indicative of that as you've introduced Andrea to all, Mrs. Blevins, I should say, to all these different organizations. And it's not like you're saying, well, it's not your time yet, you're out here. It's creating that partnership. I think the transition, we've already seen benefits of this. I think the transition is going to run very smoothly. My little crystal ball over here in my corner thinks it's going to be great for the district and for the city, because we're not taking a back step. We're continuing to move. A lot of districts, when we bring in a new when a new superintendent comes in, they sort of wipe the slate clean, say, here we go, and everybody's going a different path. We're continuing the path of success that we're seeing as a district. I mean, just the report card that just came out, we're seeing success. We don't want to slow that down. We're seeing so many good things happen in this district as a board. Maybe I'm speaking for myself. I don't want us to backslide. I want us to keep moving in a positive direction for our community. And I want to thank you for that.
Well, I appreciate that. I will say this. It's been the hardest 6 years in my 30-plus year career.
Yep, I figured that.
And not every decision we've made has been popular, but I have always made a decision based on what the lens of what is best for Hamilton City Schools and what is best for our students. And my hopes and dreams is that when Andrea takes over the reins a year from now, 2 years from now, you're doing 10 times better than you are now. And I do think that that is absolutely possible. We got great people. We've got committed teachers. I've worked in 5 districts in 37 years, and I'll tell you right now, the commitment to our teachers, that our teachers have to our kids in this district surpasses any district that I've ever worked in. And I don't throw around compliments lightly, and I mean that sincerely. And I've got some perspective on that working where I've worked in the past 37 years. I think that any superintendent that has gone through a superintendency during the times that I've gone through probably feels it's been hard. I mean, don't kid yourself. There's the COVID years were very, very challenging because guess what? No one could train you on it. No one had a roadmap, and it really, I remember sitting down with our team, and I remember saying to them, listen, this is going to test all of our leadership because there isn't a template to follow. You have to truly lead, and you truly have to make decisions, and you're making decisions that are unprecedented. None of us knew. And we were fortunate to have great leaders in the room. We were fortunate to have a supportive board. We were fortunate to have supportive staff. Even when we brought the kids back in a hybrid situation, I didn't hear complaining from our staff. I know other districts complained. Our teachers wanted to see our kids. They wanted the kids in the classroom. That wasn't typical throughout the state. But that was typical in Hamilton. I didn't get one complaint about that. Of course, we're concerned about sickness and all of that, but that's indicative of the commitment that our staff had. And I'm very fortunate to have walked into a situation, everybody thought that was a tough situation. Well, we had a lot of good things that just hadn't been uncovered. And so we've got some of those uncovered. There's still work to do, but I am confident that with Mrs. Blevins' leadership, we will be nothing but successful in the future.
I just want to say I wholeheartedly agree with your comments, Mr. Sprague, and thank you, Mike.
I agree too.
Okay, thank you. Our next meeting will be Thursday, October 10th. That is a work session, I believe, here at the board office at 4 o'clock. I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you. Need a second?
Second.
Thank you. This meeting is adjourned.